Ready. We're live. Please join me in saluting our flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United
United
States.
States of America,
to the republic,
which stands one
under
nation,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, this is to state that for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the news record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Adams.
Here.
Scripe.
Here.
Mr. DeLuca.
Here.
Mr. McGeehee.
Here.
Mayor Daffis.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to prohibit or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision in this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Scripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGeehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Welcome, friends and neighbors, to our second meeting, public session of the Township Committee in April. We will start the meeting tonight with the first public comment period. The first public comment period is always for agenda items only. And then we will move into the final passage of 4 ordinances tonight on final. That will lead us into reports from departments. I believe we have our CFO on standby tonight to talk about our budget and its adoption at the next meeting, or rather its introduction at the next meeting. That will be followed by administrative reports, starting with the Township Administrator, Mr. Jimes, Assistant Township Administrator Barnett, Township Attorney Desiderio, and then Township Clerk Fritzen. Reports from us, the elected officials, will be followed thereafter, starting with Deputy Mayor DeLuca, followed by Committee Member Adams, then Committee Member McGeehee, Committee Member Kripe, and I always go last. We have 4 discussion items, and we have 10 items on the consent agenda, all of the information publicly posted, including links to the respective documents. That brings us to our second public comment on any subject matter, and then after that, we will adjourn. So with that, let's open up public comment for agenda items only. Mr. Waltz.
Good evening, Mayor and Township Committee. We will now begin the first public comment portion of the meeting on any subject, on agenda items only. If any meeting attendee would like to address the Township Committee, please use the raise your hand function. We will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak. Would anybody like to address the committee at this time? Mayor, I have just a first name, Deb. We will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, it's Deborah Engel, 62 Bowdoin Street. Sorry, I forgot to change my name. I am wanting to talk about changing the ordinance about the distance between dispensaries from 1,000 feet to 500 feet. I am talking on behalf of being a College Hill resident on right by Prospect and Springfield, as well as being a co-owner of General Store Cooperative next door to Apothecarium. Our parking and traffic situation is already a mess, and I'm really concerned. I know that there's a building at 1807 Springfield Avenue that is interested in opening up a dispensary, and I'm really concerned about having 2 so close together, like a block or a block and a half away from each other. I'm curious to see what happens with adult use opening up on Thursday. I would like to propose that you wait to pass this ordinance until we see how traffic in the neighborhood is impacted by that opening up this week. I'm also concerned that there hasn't been any communication to the surrounding neighborhoods about adult use starting on Thursday. If it starts, I know that's a discussion item today, especially on Yale Street. I know that Yale Corner is being used as a staging area. There's going to be a lot of people coming through. It opens during kids walking to and from Tuscan and Maplewood Middle School, both to school, because it opens at 8 a.m. and after school. And so I'm just interested in hearing more about your communication plans to our community, because I don't think there's been any. And my last note, which is kind of related, is just the way that the licensing process works. I was disappointed at the last meeting that there was no time for public comment, that neighboring businesses were not notified that the apothecarium was going to be even up for a licensure at that hearing. And I was just like for you guys to think about reviewing your process to make it more in line with ABC alcohol licensure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Engel. We appreciate your comments and your valid points that you made. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's good to see you as always. I think you will be impressed by the presentation that you will see in a little bit during our discussion agenda from the apothecarium as to how they're going to deal with traffic and pedestrian traffic and car traffic and public safety in light of converting over to adult use on Thursday. And it's something that we will require a traffic plan and pedestrian plan of any dispensary or cannabis business in any corridor, including on Springfield Avenue. So, so more to come on that tonight, and hopefully you'll stay around and listen to all of that. Thank you. Mr. Waltz, do we have another member of the public who wishes to address us about any of the agenda items?
Yes, Mayor. I apologize again. I only have a first name. Deanna, we will convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. I wrote mine, so I hope that's okay. Okay, so my name is Deanna Taylor Haycock, and the agenda point I'm wanting to discuss is the apothecarium on Springfield Avenue. I happen to own the shop right next door, which is housed in the general store cooperative. My business is Good Bottle Refill Shop, which is the first of its kind in the entire state. Opening a business that supports a circular economy requires thinking differently about how we as a community consume. I'm asking the town council here tonight to think differently about parking on Springfield Avenue. When the apothecarium opened, we were excited about the prospect of potential new customers on our block. What happened instead was a decrease in business due to the flood of customers next door, and quite frankly, taking up so much parking. And I also believe that there is a general lack of knowledge in our town regarding the free parking lots within 2 blocks. When you drive up to the apothecarium, their parking lot is beyond the front door. Most of the people don't know that they have their very own luxurious parking lot. So they tend to just park on the street in front of the general store. There have been several times my customers have parked in their lot erroneously, only to be followed in to my store by their security guard and told that they had to move their car. That's been a little awkward, but hey, the rules are the rules. I'm not here to complain or wish I had their amazing parking lot. I'm here to ask, how can the town council help the other businesses out and think differently about parking rules and save the business, quite frankly, at the general store? How can we put better signs up letting customers know about the lots? How can we get dedicated street parking for the general store? The apothecarium is equipped to serve 150 customers per hour. Let me repeat that. They are equipped and have the people there to serve 150 people, customers per hour. Let's pretend, got it. Let's pretend for a minute they only get 75 customers an hour. What does 75 customers an hour look like from a parking track traffic perspective, and how does this section of Springfield Avenue accommodate that? In conclusion, I want to say we love the staff over there at the Apothecary. They come into our store and they're like part of our family, and they've been great neighbors. I just wish we as a community would be as excited about eliminating plastic bottles as we are about buying cannabis at a store. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. It's really good to see you as well. I'm a customer of yours, as you know, and one of your advocates out there. You have a tremendous business that you've built. Like you said, the only one in New Jersey, the first of its kind in New Jersey. And I do think that we will continue this conversation on the points that you noted. We want good neighbors, and we want improved traffic flow and certainly improved wayfinding along the corridor. And that's something that we should take on together, and we will do that. So thank you and have a nice evening. You're welcome to join us and to hear from the Apothecarium itself in a little bit.
Great.
Mr. Waltz. Mr. Waltz, do we have another member of the public?
I see no one, Mayor.
Okay, seeing no one else at this moment, we're going to close this public comment session and move on with final passage of 4 ordinances. Ms. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 6. 6A, final passage, ordinance number 3055-22 is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 3048-21. This ordinance will reduce the distance between cannabis retail establishments from 1,000 feet to 500 feet and will reduce the distance of a cannabis retail establishment and a house of worship to 200 feet, and will add the highway business zone as permitted area for retail cannabis business.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. At this moment, I open this ordinance up to public hearing. We've heard from a few members of the public about this already. Are there any other members of the public interested in chiming in about this ordinance? Mr. Waltz, anyone?
See no one, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, I close the public hearing. Any discussion from my colleagues?
Before you do that, I just want to report that this ordinance was sent to the planning board pursuant to statute. I received a memo back saying the planning board finds that the ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Seeing no discuss, is there any discussion from my colleagues?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Here. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So tonight, what we're doing is we are doing 3 things. So it makes to be clear. Number one, when we changed the ordinance to allow adult use, we inadvertently left off the highway business zone. So we're doing that. Number two, when we passed the medical cannabis, the alternative treatment centers, we had a distance from house of worship of 200 feet, which is consistent with the alcoholic beverage control. And when we did adult use, we made it 250. So we're bringing that back down to 200 to make it consistent with both the medical and the adult use. And then we're removing the 500 feet distance between the retail establishments. Now, we did get comments from a potential cannabis store owner that is within 1,000 feet. They asked us to change the ordinance to 887. That prompted our looking at the ordinance again. And to be honest, the 1,000-foot buffer that we had and we've been using in all of our ordinances was really based on the federal law, the 1,000 feet from the school. So that's where we were, the drug-free, and of course the state law, the drug-free school zone. So we looked at that and we said, well, does the 1,000 feet really make sense anymore? And we looked at some other towns. For example, in Newark, the distance between 2 cannabis businesses is 500 feet. We looked at some other towns where there were no barrier, no distances, no buffers between the two stores. And then we looked at our own ordinances, and years ago, back in 2005, there was a discussion about too many nail salons. And in Maplewood Village, the Township Committee passed an ordinance that adopted a 500-foot buffer. So that 500-foot number became sort of a standard that we used before when we felt that there was potentially too many stores next to one another. So when we looked at the 1,000 feet and we looked at what we had on the books of 500 feet, we thought it made more sense to be consistent with the 500 feet. Now, we should remember that an application from someone does not mean that they automatically are entitled to get a license. We have to review it. We have to review their operational plan, their parking plan. So even if somebody comes 505 feet from the apothecarium, they still will have to be held to a standard to convince us that it's in the interest of the town to grant that license. And we're only talking about 4 licenses in the town. We know from information that we've received on entities that have applied, that licenses are being asked for across town. They're not just on Springfield Avenue. So I think this is a good ordinance. It keeps it consistent with our nail salon and allows us to see what comes in and to make an evaluation of that when it does come in. It may be that we don't allow something that's within 500 feet. I'm sorry, 500 feet or more, or we allow something to come in, but at least it gives us the opportunity to have some consistency in our ordinances.
Thank you for that context, and I agree with you. Any additional remarks for my colleagues? Okay, can I get a motion, Deputy Mayor DeLuca? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Adams. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. I did want to address a couple of the comments. I think as we speak with the apothecarium, I think there's some thought should go into the on-street parking along Springfield Avenue. Not that we would change an ordinance to reflect like maybe, but a gentleman's agreement, if you will, between business owners to have the apothecarium maybe put up signage along there saying, not necessarily, just something they could come up with that would be amenable to all the businesses there. So to better identify their parking lot, which is in fact past the entrance, and also to better, I think that the apothecarium might be able to do some sandwich board signs or some information out there, at least in the beginning, to help with that situation. I think that's a fair argument. I do think that, in the experience of other states and cities across the United States where adult use cannabis has been legal for a while, there is like a heavier attendance to these businesses in the very beginning, but it very quickly weans and becomes more just like any other business. And if there are, as we watch what happens, I think, we're responsible enough as a township to pay attention to what's happening and any issues that come that are unforeseen at this moment that we can address down the road. So I just wanted to make those comments.
Certainly.
And
we
ask
could
the
talk more about
apothecarium.
this during our discussion.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I
We
may.
can talk about this in. Yep.
Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead,
I'm
Mr. McGee.
having a little bit of a delay on my audio. I may have to turn off my camera, but anyway, I think this is an opportunity for us to look at it from a different perspective. Maybe not necessarily looking at the apothecarium, but looking at the way we do signage for parking holistically on Springfield Avenue. It's clear to me through some of the comments that have been made is that, many of our patrons, being local or otherwise, are not cognizant of the parking lots that currently exist. And therefore, I think we should take this opportunity to enhance our signage, especially by Top Hat and Tails, over by St. Joe's and other places, which I believe that apothecarium is outlined as incremental parking opportunities. So just instead of focusing on this one business, let's look at our signage, the color, other things we can do to enhance the visibility of these parking lots, not just for Apothecarium, but for the general store and HLS and all the other stores we want to equally patronize in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Agreed. Ms. Adams, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mr. McGee for that comment. I neglected to mention, but it's also, as people in my line of work, when you have a parking problem, it's often a good thing. We haven't had to enhance the parking lot signage and sort of the wayfinding to parking on Springfield Avenue for, a long time. So the fact that we have this problem is a good thing in a lot of ways. It means that more people are going to the avenue. So now we might need to do some parking management and work with Springfield Avenue Partnership on creating that.
Great. And I do think this is an issue we discuss in the village as well. We need to improve wayfinding there with the existing parking. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to add, I've been in contact with Amy Howlett, who's the co-owner. We heard from one of the owners of the general store. We are going to look at some options. Just for the next couple of days, we are not going to allow dispensary parking in front of the Apothecarium, just for the opening, just to keep that open. And we're going to encourage people not to park in front of the general store and the other stores to the corner that are going into the Apothecarium. So we're going to try to leave that open. We're going to monitor that and make adjustments. We will have 2 police officers out there and we'll make adjustments. We'll be able to use cones and signage and do that. Longer term, I have spoken to the folks at the Apothecarium and we can look at some other options for signage. I think Mr. McGee is right on. We tried with some signage and I think we need to make it better. It just is not working, the signage we have. So so we have some short-term issues, some long-term issues, and we're trying to deal with both of those.
Thank you.
But that really doesn't deal with this ordinance.
It does. A lot of this.
And if you're ready, I'm ready to move it.
I've been ready to move it. So
Okay.
Please.
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second the motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. We have another ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor. Our next ordinance on final passage is ordinance number 3056-22. An ordinance to amend ordinance 2915-18. This ordinance will reduce the permitted distance between alternative treatment centers and from 1,000 feet to 500 feet.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about this ordinance on final passage? Mr. Waltz.
See no one, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from my colleagues? I think we covered this in the
Covered it.
previous.
Mayor, I just have to report again that this ordinance was sent to the planning board for its review pursuant to statute. And they wrote back that the planning board finds that the ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Deputy Mayor DeLuca, would you kindly move it?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second the motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And now, finally, we have on final passage another ordinance, but not related to cannabis, something else we've been working on for a very long time. Ms. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, also on final passage, ordinance number 3057-22. An ordinance to prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Are there members from the public who wish to comment about this ordinance? Mr. Waltz, anyone?
See no one, Mayor.
Any comment from my colleagues?
Well, this is a very big deal to me and a very amazing thing that given the 2 hours of public comment at every meeting in 2016 and 17 that this was on the agenda, it's quite astonishing that there are no public comments now. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just like a little surprised. So happily so for all of our evenings.
We've come a long way, and it's because of your leadership that we are where we are here. And it's because of your education and commitment to this issue that there are no comments. There isn't anything else left to be said. Everything that was said, and now we're taking the right action finally. So thank you for that. Can I get a motion?
Sure. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
yes,
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, and we have one more ordinance on final this evening.
Yes, Mayor, also on final passage, ordinance 3058-22 is an ordinance to require the submission of Maplewood Green development checklist with all site plan applications. This ordinance will require that the Maplewood Green development checklist be a requirement for all site plan applications.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Mr. Waltz, are there members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance?
See no one, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I believe Mr. Desideri, you may have something to say about this one as well.
I do. This ordinance also was sent to the planning board for its review pursuant to statute. They have reviewed it and advised that they find the ordinance consistent with the master plan.
Thank you, sir. Are there any comments from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Sorry, I went to click and I switched windows. Yes. Forgot what I was unmuting for.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen, again. This brings us to reports from departments. I believe that we have our CFO, Mr. Koloje, with us. Mr. Koloje, are you still with us here?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Did you want to talk a little bit about what we did last night in our budget workshop and what our budget looks like as we head into introducing it next month?
So at last night's final workshop of the budget, discussions were had regarding personnel issues. And in addition to that, in the public session, there was an exploration of some of the options that we had available to us. The majority had voted to move forward with the budget that Mr. Jimes presented. That'll represent a tax rate of 93 cents, which is up from last year's tax rate of 88.2 cents, or roughly a 4.8 cent increase. A lot of our drivers on this particular budget were items that were outside of our control. Recycling costs went up $292,000. Our pension bill went up by $264,000. Our debt service increased by $331,000. We have IDA costs that are still outstanding to the tune of $844,000. Our PBA settlement cost us $187,000. And we are beginning the first year of our 5-year payback on our COVID note, which is $400,000. The cherry on top of all that bad news Sunday is that our revenues were also down about $680,000 from what we had anticipated in 2021. So with all that bad news swirling around us, we were able to put together a budget that maintains the services that we see as important for our residents. And the process now will be to introduce a budget on May 3rd. That evening, we will have a cap bank ordinance put before us so that we can put aside $157,000 into the cap bank. We will have a resolution to allow us to use a 3-year average for some of our revenues that are underperforming, such as the court, interest on deposits, parking, the joint meeting refund, and woodland rentals will be on that resolution. We will also have a resolution to approve our sewer fee for 2022. And once we do that, we'll also have the resolution that introduces the budget and establishes a hearing date. We'll then post the legal ad in the paper, and the hearing date will be for June 7th. And we will spend the next 4 weeks defending our budget to the state. We need to complete our annual financial statement and get that into the state before they'll even listen to our arguments on the budget that which we wish to present. And that is pretty much going to be the process over the next 4 weeks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Poloje. And I'm going to cue Township Administrator Jimes lead us into administrative reports. Mr. Jimes, did you want to add to the budget presentation last night?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add a couple comments. The CFO covered it very well and encapsulated most of what we did. I would just add that, I do believe this is a responsible budget. I think it is fiscally sound, and it allows us to meet our needs and provide the level of service that the public here in Maplewood expects. And we do that every day in the municipal operation, and this budget allows us to continue to do that. When we talk about expenditures, the CFO mentioned all of the, the main drivers of our budget. I think just from a numerical standpoint, and when we do the public hearing, I will have more of a, visual detail for people to see. It's important to know that, 75% of our budget is already accounted for before we even provide any level of service to the residents. 38% of that budget goes to approximately 38% goes to salaries and wages, and 69% of all that salary and wages is going to our public safety, police, and fire departments before we've even paid any municipal staff. Health insurance is 9%, pensions is 10% of that budget, and 78% of that pension bill is also for our PERS, police, and fire department as well. And then, of course, debt service is 14%. So you're at almost 70% before we've even provided any services whatsoever. So that makes a challenge, but that's not unique to Maplewood. I mean, that is how municipal government is structured in New Jersey, and our main revenue sources are property taxes, and that's the case anywhere from 60 to 70% in almost any municipal government. We're not like other states where we can develop a lot of new sources of revenue other than what's afforded to us by the state government. And as you know, the state government only funds us to the tune of about 3.5% with what is commonly referred to state aid. So while no budget is perfect, no situation is perfect, we do believe, as we've said many times in the past, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel due to some various debt service coming off the books in the next year or two. But again, our main goal is always going to be to provide a fiscally sound budget that provides a level of service that people expect. And the same thing, from a revenue standpoint, adding on to that revenue standpoint, as I said, 70% is property taxes, 3.5% is the state aid, and the other miscellaneous revenue comes out to about 17%, and then 9% others. And that 17% is various things like the pilots, code, court, recreation, interest, delinquent taxes. So there's not a lot of creativity we have in this regard, but we worked hard, and I'd like to thank everybody, for their assistance, the mayor and township committee, and also the CFO, his finance office, and department heads in general for their cooperation throughout.
Thank you, Mr. Jimes. Well said. Do you have any other reports this evening?
Just very briefly, I have 3 other items that are relatively minor in terms of reporting. We've been looking at some various federal grants that, as you know, you've been sending over my way from the Congressman's office and Senator Booker's office. You know, DPW has looked into some of the items that we've been looking at from a capital standpoint to submit to the Congressman's office, and Senator Booker's office has some what's called congressionally directed spending, which used to be called earmarks, but there's a nicer name for that now. And we're looking at some possibilities there as well. I was in contact with the office today. The applications to submit letters of interest are very preliminary at this point. So, you know, we'll just come up with ideas internally. And of course, if we get to any finality, you know, the mayor and township committee will be consulted on that. Working out of Recreation and Cultural Affairs, we're in discussions with a candidate for the events manager vacancy. And I hope at the next committee meeting to have a resolution to that end to appoint somebody to that position. Regarding the ongoing issue with insurance and Storm Ida, you know, that was moving along, you know, very well for a long time. But as you might expect with insurance companies, there's some hiccups. They're starting to request some more documents that were not requested early on in the process. So I got some other stakeholders involved, and we're really trying to work through that between the underwriters and the joint insurance fund and our risk manager. We've been working almost daily on that for the last week or so. And lastly, if you go to our website today, you might notice a new extension. If you type in our regular extension, twp.nj.maplewood, or whatever that is, it'll automatically now default to maplewoodnj.gov. And anybody who just types in maplewoodnj.gov, that is our new website. All the redirects are there. That was done today. I didn't expect it to be done today, to be honest with you. I expected today just to be a meeting to make some DNS changes. And it turns out that that meeting was to actually effectuate this. So that's the first step. The next step will be maplewoodnj.gov as your email extensions. And that is part of the capital budget that we agreed to last night that will be put forth in an ordinance. I would like to get that project going rather quickly because it is a lengthy project. So, you know, since you did approve it last night and it will be on the capital, I would like your authorization to at least give the IT department the okay to proceed on that to get the second phase of this transition up and running. And
I would move that.
Thank you.
I'll second. Do we need a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Croy?
yes,
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you. And nice work.
That's all I have.
Mr. Jimes, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mayor.
ahead.
On the insurance, let's set up a meeting next week because I was on a call with FEMA today and that is a recurring issue. And they're ready to process some of our projects and the insurance is holding it up. So I'll set that up when Mr. Kittner is back and we can go over each project and kind of have a game plan of how we can work FEMA and the insurance company at the same time.
That sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Jimes. Thank you, Mr. Kolodziej. Mr. Kolodziej, if you don't mind hanging out, we might have public comment later. That'd be great if you could be with us. We shouldn't go that long this evening. Of course, now that I said that, it's going to be different. Township Administrator Assistant Barnett, any reports?
Yes, so I just wanted to elaborate on Administrator Jimes's comment on the township website. And I'm actually going to share my screen really quick so that everyone can see as I'm talking about it. So as Administrator Jimes mentioned, you can see that our new URL is now maplewoodnj.gov. If you type in the old URL, it will redirect you. So that'll help for folks as we relearn that habit, although I'm sure a lot of people will immediately switch to typing out the shorter one. It's a little more convenient. But in addition to that, we do have our whole new webpage that we've been working on rolling out over the past couple of months. And we've had sort of a soft launch and had some time to update different links, update the information, move things around, make it a little more intuitive, a little easier to find things. And something that we're excited about is making it a lot easier for residents to find the services that they need. So I'm actually going to demonstrate on here how to sign up for a couple of things that we would like people to see to get some more information from us. So we're really focusing on pushing out the township's information through this centralized channel. I know that on social media, things can get a little messy. It can be hard to find the correct information. You can hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people. So something that we've all been working on collectively is directing the township's communications through our website, and more specifically through our Nixle alerts for urgent updates, and then through our weekly updates, which gives a recap of all of the news and announcements that have been shared throughout the week. And this is something that residents can find over here in the service finder. So you've probably seen the search tool before. This is just like the stereotypical, type it in like Google, things pull up. But the service finder is unique in that it offers these drop downs for us to use. So you'll see over here, there's how do I, and for example, it has apply for, you can do a job at Maplewood, and then that would direct you to the jobs page. But what we are gonna focus on, oh man, unfortunately, sometimes actually this is a good practice for y'all to see. So sometimes on this website, it will not show the most updated changes as we've edited it. And what you can usually do to troubleshoot that quickly is to clear your cache. But what I'm going to do actually is just pull up a different page really quick. Just pull up the one I was just working in, because I know that that has the correct information. But that is actually something that we've run into with this website before. So that's something that I'm actually glad I had this little reminder to show to folks. So a lot of times the most updated version won't show up on Google if you have too many cookies in your cache, or if you're using Safari, we find that it takes a little bit to update. So I was just cleaning everything up this afternoon and making sure that it was clean for this launch. So that's probably why there was a little bit of lag in the incognito tab I was using. But over here, now you should be able to see there's a way to go to how do I, and you can go through and select all these different actions. But what we're gonna do for this evening is sign up, just so that people can see how to sign up for our Nixle alerts. As I said, those are the more urgent alerts that come through our police department. And when you click on learn more, it'll redirect you right to the Nixle page. So that's where you go to sign up there. And then we also have our township alerts under the same service finder. So you go over and once again, it's sign up, scroll down to township notifications, and that will take you to our resident services page, which actually has a lot of different tools for residents to use. But right over here is where you can type in your email and subscribe to receive updates. We also have an SMS text message option. You can sign up for one or the other or both, just however you prefer to get those notifications and receive that information. I will say in terms of our weekly update, it's probably easier to read through a web browser, but if you want some more urgent notifications, those will be coming through Nixle. And then one last thing I'd like to highlight in the service finder, because I know we have a few boards and committees with open spots, and we also have people who are interested in getting on the waiting list for those. Once again, under sign up, another thing you can drop down to is to volunteer. And I know some folks have had an issue with our volunteer form that we had integrated through our new boards and committee software. And we have Granicus working on recoding that. There was something on their end that wasn't allowing the form to submit properly. So what we've done in the meantime is we have a form set up that is integrated into our website. So you'll go on and just enter your information here. At the bottom, it gives you a chance to select your areas of interest or expertise. And then there's also a chance to review your application before you submit it. Once you do, we'll receive an email notification and we'll be able to review it. And you'll also get notice that it has been submitted through a note that'll pop up saying thank you for your submission. So you'll be able to confirm that that's been received. And something that I want to point out is since the township recently adopted a code of ethics, we now have this disclaimer at the top. So by submitting that volunteer application, everybody who submits it is acknowledging that they've received and have read the township code of ethics. So to access that, you can just click right here and it brings you to the resolution that outlines everything that that code of ethics entails. So those are just a few of the features that we've worked on making more accessible through this new website. And I'd encourage everyone to visit maplewoodnj.gov, kind of poke around, see what all there is that has changed and that has been integrated through those new service finder tools. If there's anything that you had difficulty finding, I'd encourage you to shoot me an email so that I can place it in one of those tools. I mean, the whole goal here is transparency and accessibility. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out. I'll drop my name in the chat. But that is our big update as of late, and we're really excited to formally launch it and share it with everyone.
Assistant Administrator, well done. That is incredible work. Very necessary upgrades and improvements, and thank you for showing us how it all works. Particularly like the feature where someone who submits to volunteer will receive a message acknowledging our receipt of their submission. That was something that was missing previously, and we've heard a lot about that from our volunteers. So I'm glad that that's going to be addressed. Very, very nice. Thank you. Township Attorney Dario.
Mayor, I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Township Clerk Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, a few things. We have been running event planning meetings this week. We had 2 on Monday. There'll be 2 more on Thursday. So things are
It's not any better.
moving along. We have Green Day coming up on Saturday, an outdoor market, the garden club plant sale at the pool. Tuscan School PTA is having a fair on 30th of April. And again, we've been having event planning meetings just to have the organizers give us a review of the program, and so that they know what they can expect from the township for services we could provide to assist them. So spring is here. I just want to mention again that on May 3rd, our next township committee meeting at the tail end, we anticipate having an ABC transfer for the liquor license that was put out to bid and acquired by Maplewood Cinemas. So we have that hearing at the end of our May 3rd meeting. I want to report that, we moved the ballot box. We had to do that. We moved it in front of the branch library. And we were also tasked with camera surveillance installation, which I'm going to report tonight has been successfully achieved. So the great thing is the County of Essex is footing the bill on that surveillance camera system. And finally, at the last meeting, I had not certified, but had received petitions for Deborah Engel and Kurt Kiley as Democratic candidates for the Maplewood Township Committee. And no Republican filed. So I have certified that those 2 candidates will be running for 1 spot in the June primary. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And speaking of the June primary, we also did receive the vote guide that the county has produced. And it looks like they will be doing the same that we have done in recent elections. People will be able to vote early in person the weekend prior, vote by mail, and obviously vote in person on the day of. And we will be sending that information out as well for the township.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. And this brings us to reports from elected officials. Deputy Mayor Luca.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 3 quick things. I just want to give everyone an update on the library. I know you're passing it. You're seeing those boards up on the windows. We haven't forgotten. We're still building a new library. We had, of course, we were set back overall by Tropical Storm Ida. We went in and redesigned the whole plan to move the mechanicals up to the roof to get some resiliency from future storms. So that took at least 2 months more and plus just to do those designs and get all that. We had to go back in and change all the bidding documents to make that happen. And that's where we are now. Our bidding documents are being reviewed by the New Jersey Office of State Comptroller. And we honestly been going back and forth. And today We got some other comments and I got a little agitated and sent some stuff back, but we're going to try to work on it and get it resolved as quick as possible. So we are still moving forward. Hopefully we will have a bid back, a construction bid that we'll be voting on in June, and we'll get that work starting in the summer. I just want to alert both the community and my colleagues here that we have a resolution on the agenda 14122, which is the contract for the four-way stop at Rutgers and Field and Newark Way. This is something that we worked with the community about. We promised them. We were hoping to get it through, and it still might happen, or at least we'll begin work by the end of April. But we are awarding a contract. We got 2 quotes. They were roughly $1,000 apart. This will be about a $24,000 project, and we will move forward with that. And then on resolution 13922, this is a capital grants needs project with the State Department of Community Affairs. And we will be reconfiguring the DeHart parking lot if we get the grant. This will allow us to have a better flow of traffic. It will create a sidewalk along Burnett Avenue where we don't have one now. It'll allow for a drop-off area so that people with mobility issues, or even you want to drop your kids off so that they can run into the park, go play ball or so, you'll be able to drop off and they won't be crossing any traffic. And it will include a rain garden in the park. So we'll be putting that application in by May 2nd. And this is a critical piece of getting this approved. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Excellent report. Committee Member Adams.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Certainly
Yes.
can.
Okay, sorry, I'm on twice here because I was having audio problems on my computer. Maybe I need a new one, can't afford it. So we're just gonna deal. So I'm gonna share my screen because I have a few things here I wanna show people. This is No Mow May, which is something where the Green Team will be have information on this on Saturday at Green Day. No Mow May is basically just encouraging residents that you don't have to go wild and never mow your, maybe for the first 2 weeks of May to not mow your lawn. The reason for that is to creating a habitat for pollinator bees and being able to kind of combat some of the issues we've had over the years in all towns, and just the danger of losing our bees and our pollinators. So we're asking for residents to consider doing that. I've talked with code enforcement. There's no actual inches of how long your grass can be. It's only if it goes, crazy and the weeds are, up to your front door. But so there'll be no danger in anyone ticketing, and you can choose parts of your lawn or all of your lawn depending on your property. So it's just something we're trying to promote to be better for our environment. Excuse me. Also, DPW and our lawn service that we outsource will be choosing particular parks, worked with the Memorial Park Conservancy on this too, to some smaller areas on the riverbanks or on areas of the parks that aren't obviously not sports areas, but areas of the parks where, excuse me, it makes sense to let it grow a little bit for the month of May, and then we'll deal with that after, and DPW will help whack down any overgrowth at the end of the month. So with that in mind, Green Day is coming up, as hopefully people know. I'm going to find it. So we have a lot going on Green Day. So I'll share again, feel like Vic here. So at Green Day, which is this Saturday in the village from 10 to 2, Urban Cycle will be there to bring your bike down if you need any repairs, minor repairs. The Urban Cycle Shop will be down there doing that. There'll also be information on solar and the community solar in particular. That'll be information at the green team table. And we also have an electric vehicle car show. I promised Tracy Woods that I would clean the dog fur out of mine so I could park it down there. And we have eco vendors, kids activities, there'll be music and an appearance around 1 o'clock by Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, who's our incoming representation in Congress next year. And she's up for election this year. And then at the same time, from 10 to 2, you can go over to Memorial Park and meet by the Civic House Bridge to do river cleanup. As you can see, it's something that we try to do every year. And so bring some wading boots. You'll get right in the water. You check in at the Civic House Bridge on Donnell Road, and you'll be given supplies to collect some garbage down to the Maplewood line at South Orange. It says here, mask within 6 feet. That's optional, but we don't want people to feel bad masking or not masking. So and stop sharing. So we have at code enforcement, code meeting, we talked about parklet and streetery designs. This township committee needs to, in the upcoming months, opine on what our situation will be with going forward. We have permitted by resolution through the end of this year, 2022, to allow parklets and streeteries in Maplewood, in the township, in the business districts, but typically they're used in Maplewood Village. It's just the geography more than anything else. So we are doing a subcommittee meeting with department heads, police, fire, and construction code official, all that kind of stuff to do work with the Village Alliance, representatives from their design committee, and their director will come to a meeting. We'll be setting that up shortly to talk about the design of parklets, to talk about issues with them, to talk about the balance of parking and use of parking spaces for businesses. We, as a township committee, then need to decide other things relevant to it that's not for this design subcommittee, such as fees that we may want to associate, what the process will be, what the application process will be, how many parking spaces for a business, all those kinds of things. So it's quite a bit, and we'll try to hash through a lot of it over the next couple of months in code committee, where it belongs right now, and then we'll come back for this public discussion on that. And what else? So also at code, we'll be talking about Wonder Trucks. It's a business, for those who don't know, where mostly electric, but not all electric, fleet of vans come on demand to residents. We're within the pilot area of this business's launch, and they have a commercial kitchen in Cranford. So we just want the public to know that we're discussing it, we're looking into it, and making sure that it meets our sustainability goals. They do have a lot of sustainability practices that they use in their business model, but we want to address it and also talk about the impacts on local food businesses and such. So there's a lot to talk about. It's been on social media a bit, but we'll be talking about that at code as well. And lastly, at DPW this Saturday from 8:30 till 1, you can drive through and pick up a free sapling to plant on your property. So we got a special specimen tree that we'll be planting on Arbor Day at Maplecrest Park, which is really great. And so just if you want a free sapling to plant on your property, start replenishing our tree canopy on your private properties as well. That would be great. So I think that's everything I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Ms. Adams. Appreciate that fulsome report And I have some additions to some of the items that you mentioned that I will give in my report. There's a lot of overlap in things that we all work on, and we work on them together. So Committee Member McGehee.
Thank you, Mayor. 3 quick items, and I will be brief. First and foremost, going to start with an event, a cultural event Saturday, Smooth Jazz New Jersey and the Maplewood Division of Arts and Culture. So we're going to have jazz at the Woodland Saturday night at 8 p.m. It should be a great event. It's the 4th in the jazz series. We've had phenomenal jazz, started way back in 2021 and will continue. That's on Saturday night. On Sunday, for those who want a health opportunity, we're going to be doing with Summer Fox, which is one of our best running groups, not just in Maplewood and South Orange, but throughout New Jersey. They're doing a 1-hour run or see how long you can go in an hour, run, walk fast, whatever the case may be. Most importantly, as you can see, 25% of the proceeds are going to go to the Hunger Food Relief, the MIN organization, which I'm a big advocate for. And then finally, the Ideas Festival will start, and I promote that on Monday night. Please join me. So I'll listen to Christina Swarns. If you remember, last year we presented her with the prestigious award, Community Service Award from the Township Maplewood, and she'll be speaking at the Woodland at 7 p.m. At the Woodland on Monday night. And that's really my report. And I'm showing you right now the our website because I think it's important for everyone to see it. And kudos to Ms. Barnett in that regard. And that's it. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGehee. Committee Member Craig.
I just have to say, I'm super, super excited about some of the things Vic and Frank reported on, particularly that stop sign at Rutgers and Newark. My goodness, so necessary. Looking forward to that and just looking at to see what changes are going to happen with drop off for kids camp when that new parking lot comes into play at the Heart. And date night this Saturday is the Jazz at the Woodland, so I'm doing that.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, I only have one thing to report. The Seniors Advisory Committee met this past week, and a few things came to mind. In particular, some concerns they have with some of the ways that financing is being made available, and I put available in quotation marks for seniors, particularly the way that some of the billing for our utilities are charging our members. If you want a paper copy, it costs you $8 to get a copy of your bill versus the digital, and that seems a little excessive. So we are putting together a subcommittee to start writing letters to start sending things out to our elected officials to discuss this and see if there's an alternative way for us to provide some relief for our members. But they are super excited also to start working more with our seniors. We just got a conversation started with our MAC scholars at Columbia High School and a few of the junior class members to coordinate the Seniors for Seniors program that they have been trying to launch through Seton Hall with their assistance. And it's coming together nicely. So hopefully we'll start to see the first bit of connection and work happening over the next few months, in particular with yard cleanup for spring. For our seniors. We are looking forward to the May Fest. I've got our tent in order and our people in place, and we have a staff of folks ready to man the water table and meet and greet new seniors into the neighborhood. Many of whom we are actually finding that we interact with at the community fridge. So it's nice to know that at the community fridge, more than just an exchange of food is happening, but there's conversations and connections being created with neighbors for the various services and such. And grants. Jerry, you'll be hearing from the Seniors Advisory Committee very, very soon. We have a series of grants we're looking to apply for, particularly since some of the funding this year had to be reduced, budgets being budgets. But there are some things that we've got, particularly the pedestrian safety audit, as well as the domestic violence grants that are available through the AARP. So we're looking at trying to get some of that funds so that we can have those services available for our community. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was great. I just want to follow up on the grants that you mentioned. Remember that we we adopted a resolution at the last meeting regarding a grant through the Department of Justice that relates to elder abuse. And that's physical as well as scamming, financial abuse, and fraud. So I think we got that area covered. But yeah, definitely more grants for our seniors are necessary. And we can talk about that offline, you and I, if you like, moving that along. Saturday night is the place to be. It is date night, and I will be there too. So we're all going to be getting some jazz. I'm even bringing some friends from the city. The Woodland is the place to be. 7:30, go get your tickets because there's not a lot of tickets left. And have dinner in the village first, and then there and party. It's so exciting to be out and about again, together in person. I just wanted to add a couple of things that were already relayed. And that on Saturday night is after, as Ms. Adams talked about, Green Day in the village earlier and river cleanup. So it's going to be a busy Saturday. I'm not sure if I'll be getting up early on Sunday morning to run with you, Mr. McGeehee and the Soma Fox Club, but I'm sure I'd never be able to catch up to you anyway if I did. So have fun on that. I wanted to add that the MVA has identified, the Maplewood Village Alliance has identified their respective representatives for the subcommittee that we will be putting together through code to look at our parklets beyond 2022, as Ms. Adams already reported. And the MVA has had some very healthy, I should say, discussions recently, spirited discussions, lengthy discussions about parking. And I'm talking about other things other than wayfinding. We will be receiving a formal recommendation from the parking committee that has been alive again and doing a lot of good work. So a lot coming out of the village soon. And someone said earlier that they weren't aware that adult use was starting in New Jersey on Thursday, which I found, I guess, there are always things that don't get out there, and, receiving news and receiving communications is a dance, right? Both parties have to move their feet and their hands in order to dance. So sometimes we're not receptive to communications, but we know that our managers of our special improvement districts have been sending out communications to our residents and to our merchants, certainly our neighboring merchants, about adult use starting on Thursday. It's been all over the news. It's the one thing that news outlets are reaching out to us here at Town Hall constantly. I've had 3 reporters reach out to me today about it. So it's out there, it's happening. And I think there's a lot of press about it. And we will be talking about the apothecarium shortly this evening. And Ms. Barnett, if you haven't already, would you kindly move over one of the teammates from the apothecarium who will be making a presentation and addressing some of the concerns that we have in our discussion agenda, so they can be ready for that. So that's my report. I'm keeping it light. We're going to move right into discussion. Deputy Mayor DeLuca has the first item.
Thank you, Mayor. So Maplewood was one of the first towns to adopt a electric vehicle charging station ordinance, and ours was good. Actually, it was pretty good. And the state now has passed a law that preempts all the local ordinances, and they have a model ordinance that we have to adopt. So our local ordinance is no longer really effective anymore. Well, it's still in effect, but it really will be superseded by the state. So we need to adopt this. I've circulated it. Mr. Desiderio suggested that we pull together a couple stakeholders to go over it, which we will do. And hopefully our intention is to have it on the next agenda as an introduced ordinance. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Any discussion? Okay, moving on. Township committee meetings. So I've been reflecting on the duration of our township committee meetings since COVID. In many ways, our meetings have become terrific in terms of public engagement, in terms of our very healthy and direct and robust engagement with our residents who, through this technology, have been able to participate and engage with us in ways they could not when we were in person at late hours in the evening, when they had to actually go somewhere to be there in the room where it happens. So that's great, and I'm not interested in any way affecting public engagement. And it looks like we're going to be meeting like this for the near future anyway, and not returning in person, at least for the near future. But speaking of our residents, I think that our meetings have gone way beyond 2 hours very regularly. This is even on nights where we don't have a hot topic on the agenda. And it isn't fair to our residents for them to wait until 10 o'clock, 10:15, 10:30 to be able to participate, to engage in public comment. It isn't fair to all the working mommies and daddies out there who want to engage with us, who have important concerns to raise, and they have to wait until this very late hour to do so. It isn't fair for our employees who've worked a full day, and of course to us who've also worked a full day. And I think really the bottom line is I do think that we can be more efficient and more judicious going forward. So what I'm proposing is that we shorten our meetings to 2 hours, a 9:30 stop, and also consider our respective elected official reports to be submitted beforehand in writing, or to limit what we report out to 1 or 2 items. It isn't like we are the school board. It isn't like we don't meet but once a month. There's always going to be another meeting to talk about things more. And don't forget, we also meet publicly in our subcommittees. Many of our subcommittees are also public meetings. So there is a lot of opportunity to engage on important issues and to have significant and important necessary public engagement. But after 9:30, 10 o'clock, it is late and it isn't fair nor efficient. So I propose that we seriously consider having a hard stop 9:30 for our open session from 7:30 to 9:30. If we end sooner, great. Sometimes that may not work perfectly, especially if we have a hot topic. But I think most of the times it should. It will require that we be judicious with our agenda and the things that we put on our agenda. We tend to pile a lot of things on in one meeting. And it'll require that we be judicious with our remarks. So I open the floor to your, how do you all feel about this? And what do you think?
Mayor, yes. No more comments.
Any other comments?
I concur.
Yeah,
Ms.
to the
Adams, I think
extent
you've-
that, yeah, to the extent that we can, without, squelching public comments and public participation. So,
Absolutely. Mr. DeLuca, Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
Yeah, I was trying to save time by not answering, but yes, I think the only thing I would suggest is what should happen is at 9:30, we should take an affirmative action to extend the meeting if we feel we need to. This way, at least we just don't slide. So no, you said, you would prompt us to say it's 9:30. It looks like we have another 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Shall we move forward? Let's something like that.
Right. That's a good call.
And Mayor, really quick, again, I 100% support this. You're right. There's a lot of overlap. We go to a lot of events together. We submit that stuff in the same day. So the NJ Jazz, the Green Team, we could put a screen up with all the information. We can put in the chat like I just did, and we can go and get out of here.
Yep, agreed. And there will be some spontaneous things that we want to report on, and that's fine. There will always be that opportunity. Okay, that's all I needed. So it'll be effective starting with the next meeting? Yeah, okay, good. Thank you for your support. The next item is the watering ordinance. Committee Member Adams.
yes, Mayor, this is really, it's something we just want to talk about. The assistant administrator brought this up at code. Really, it's incredibly rough ordinance at the moment. But basically it's about water conservation and restricting water use at houses. And again, this will be further discussed at code. We're not anywhere near ready to talk about it as an ordinance right now. But hopefully for Sustainable Jersey application 2023, we will have something in place. A lot of it is way too detailed about weird stuff. And then all the stuff in yellow is what I consider too detailed, weird stuff. So then it's really trying to regulate. So we have to kind of think through it. And I welcome anybody with, who's not on code to give me your comments on this. I think I shared this with you, or Bailey did, but if not, I can. And it's basically that. It's trying to, it's public awareness, but also with a little bit of teeth. We talked about modest penalties, just to as a learning tool, if you will, or teaching tool for residents about the unnecessary watering, especially of grass, which is also bad for the environment in and of itself. So I open the floor if anybody has any concerns with even looking into this.
No concerns on my end. I don't see any heads nodding in any other way in the affirmative that they have concerns. I would say that I think we need to do some education. We should start doing some public education. I think that's where it's at. Like you said, we're nowhere near an ordinance. And as you reported, I think earlier during your report, we did have a healthy discussion about this during code with our code enforcement team. And their opinion was, at least as it stands right now, something like this would be very difficult to enforce. And this is something that we were trying to do this year if we could, to get extra credit for our sustainability rating. But like you said, maybe we can consider for next year's sustainability rating. But anyway, for me, I think we need to do the education piece and try that approach. And
we can work.
Talking about, yeah, okay. Any other discussion about this?
This is for 2023, clearly, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just, if there was like a temperature here that was, don't even try, then we wouldn't waste our time at code. But if there's a desire, go ahead, Ben.
I'm sorry. The way Sustainable Jersey works is that we won't be getting certified again until 2025. So we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah, you might break that 2 hour on this one. I won't be around for that one, so enjoy yourselves.
If you could send that out as a Word document, it's easier to edit if it's a Word document.
Yeah.
And you did provide it to all of us, so thank you, because I have reviewed it. Okay, so this brings us to our discussion, our follow-up discussion that we had last time, to follow up on the conditions that we talked about that would need to be satisfied for us to be comfortable providing local approval to Terrace End, the Apothecarium, to engage in adult use retail. So before we hand it over to the team that's here to make a little presentation to us, they did supply their follow-up documentation. Mr. Desideri, our township attorney, supplied that information. Presumably you all have reviewed those documents. It was about the community host agreement. It was about the plans to promote social equity. There were concerns about an actual, real, sincere commitment to diversity and inclusion and recruitment and planning in that regard. And of course, there were concerns about armed guards. So is there any discussion about the documentation that we received as a follow-up on those issues?
So Mayor, I have a point of order. I believe there was a communication, but I asked for a clarification on one of the statements. The term was used that 38% of the managing force was diverse, but it wasn't clear to me if they were defined as Black and or Hispanic / African Americans, which was communicated at the lower tier of the job. So I want clarification that 38% of diverse managers is also Black and African American, Hispanic American.
Terrific. Okay. Mr. DeLuca, did you want to add something to that?
We've invited Kimberly here from the Apothecarium to report on the 4 conditions and to answer any other questions you might have.
Great. With that, Kimberly, welcome. Good to see you.
Hello. Thanks, everyone. Good evening. It's so nice to see some familiar faces from last week's event meeting, as well as from our Maplewood grand opening almost over a year ago. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kimberly Owies. I'm the Senior Director of Brand and Channel Marketing for TerraSend. And I'm really looking forward to meeting some of you and connecting with you guys over the next few weeks with hopefully an adult use approval. So without further ado, per the April 5th Township meeting, we have remediated the 4 contingencies requested by the committee. Contingency 1, on April 6th, we submitted our annual tax payment for Q2 to Q4, as well as our Q1 2022 payment. Moving forward, we will be submitting our quarterly tax payment within 30 days of quarter end. For contingency 2, the removal of armed guards, on April 11th, we did remove armed guards from our retail security staff. For contingency 3.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Sure
So
thing.
not only did you remove them, but you were committed that you will not replace them or hire anybody, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you're going to get to Mr. McGee's question, right?
Sure are. For contingency, I was just going in order of.
Okay.
For contingency 3, earlier today, we did accept and submit an updated 2022 host agreement that did include all of the revisions provided by Deputy Mayor DeLuca, as well as Committee Member McGehee in paragraphs 3 and 4.1. And then lastly, for contingency 4, on April 11th, we submitted all the information relating our diversity, inclusion, and committee outreach, as well as our internal diversity and inclusion training materials and anti-discrimination policy. Regarding the question on page 76 of our application by Committee Member McGehee, diverse is in fact defined by Hispanic, Latino, Black, and or African American. Any questions?
Are there any questions on those contingencies?
Nope, my question was answered, so I appreciate it.
Of course. I also wanted to thank the public and committee members, Deb, Deanna, and Nancy, for your comments and feedback earlier on the call. We presented our event plan, which did include crowd control, parking, and signage last week. And I'm happy to walk through the plan if the committee allows.
I think it's a really good idea if you don't mind, since we have members of the public here, Kimberly.
Yeah, not at all. It was a much longer deck, but I will just go through those 3 topics since that was raised earlier.
Please, thank you.
Of course. Okay, so I know that there was, oops, hold on one second. Close everyone out. All right, so here we've identified 3 municipal parking lots in which we will note for, oops, sorry, one second. 3 municipal parking lots in which we will identify on our website additional signage for customers to park. We've also identified on Hilton Avenue where our employees will park. So, we are really trying to make sure that we're not bottlenecking and taking up other parking spots. And so we have A-frame signage. We're updating our Google My Business pages, our website and store listings, as well as listings on third-party sites like Leafly and Pot Guide to ensure that we are clearly directing traffic to these 4 parking lots. The Apothecarium parking lot that's adjacent to our building, we are going to have as patient-only parking. And as stated earlier, we will be blocking off parking directly in front. But we have also hired an off-duty officer to help patrol the traffic into our adjacent parking lot for patients only for the first few weeks to ensure that we are not creating additional traffic right in front of that.
Kimberly, could you say what the difference is between a patient and a customer?
Absolutely. So patients are medical card holders and customers are recreational adult use customers over 21 years.
And Kimberly, you're required per the CRC and you're committed to prioritizing patients as a medical dispensary first. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's why when we spoke with the chief earlier this week, we wanted to ensure that we had his support and his team to help us police those who are coming in and out of that parking lot.
Thank you. You can move forward.
My pleasure. So in regards to crowd control and the pedestrian crossing, per the event meeting planning, we have made some adjustments to our original proposal. With guidance from the chief, we are going to be using his barricades around the Yale Street parking lot. We will include tents and education tables manned by our line control staff. When you enter at the top right on Yale Street, we will have our tables ready or a digital wait list app. So anyone coming into the line or on the queue will sign up digitally, and we will heavily encourage those to go and walk around and shop at local businesses. You can see on the top right our signage key. We have added a ton of signs. So thank you to the township for providing the message board sign, which is noted on the top right in pink. That's going to be the check-in area to help direct traffic there. It's already in place. As well as all of the blue squares, we have that is going to be identified as where parking should be. So we have the 3 other municipal parking lots noted there. We also have waste and recycle receptacles, as well as no consumption signs or no smoking cannabis or cigarettes on public sidewalks and places. So we, are committed to making sure that we are cleaning up every evening, that we are stationed there to support traffic flow, and then also too, we'll have an off-duty officer help with traffic for the crosswalk. And then lastly here, noted in our parking lot on the right side, we also have an off-duty officer as well as line control staff. We do have parking, no park or parking signs for patients only, as well as the list of the 3 municipal lots where we are directing traffic. So we will also have additional staff direct those who are looking for parking directly to those 3 locations. And we also have no consumption on site posted on the walls.
Terrific. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Mr. Desiderio, we did get the revised community host agreement. In the past, what we've done is we've agreed as a township committee to the principles of it, and then you put it into a resolution form. And we're going to do that again, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And what we'll do is if you're in agreement, then I think there should be a motion allow, if you're at this point, to grant a license to this entity for adult use cannabis, having satisfied all the terms and conditions. And then we can also authorize that the mayor and the township clerk sign the host agreement on behalf of the township.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. I move that we approve Terrascend, the Apothecarium, for adult use retail.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Kimberly, for the presentation tonight. And we look forward to seeing it all in action on Thursday morning.
Thank you guys so much.
Mayor, if I may, is it pronounced O's?
Always.
Always, okay. So there's no confusion. There have been a series of emails that have gone back and forth with regard to the use of the Riel Street parking lot. Okay, we're probably not going to have those formalized by the time you open, but everyone understands that you are bound by those terms and that you're going to operate consistent with those terms. Is that correct? When I say you, obviously your company is what I'm referring to.
Yes.
Okay, so those series of emails set forth the terms by which you're going to operate.
Yes.
Okay.
And if I may interject, just one more thing. Someone made a comment about the security being harsh on certain customers going over to the general store. Can we cut that out? I mean, like, we're all in the same family. So if someone happens to park there and go to the general store, leave them be. We've already, parking's for all. We're an inclusive community. So if you can communicate that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for the immediacy given after the event planning committee, we allocated those specific spots just for patients per the CRC requirement. But of course, I think we can talk to our security guards to ensure that there's no, there's nothing but love for everyone on the block.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd be irritated if somebody a security guard follow me. I'd be irritated. So yeah, cool, awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And Kimberly, one final thing before we let you go. We don't want to let you go, you see. So you're planning on starting adult use retail at 10 a.m., even though you open at 8 because you want to prioritize patients in the early hours. Is that still the plan?
We will prioritize for Sunday to Wednesday. The first 3.5 hours would be dedicated to patient-only purchasing. Because that does not start on Thursday, or because adult use sales will start on Thursday, those hours will not be applicable. We do recognize that we need to comply with the noise ordinance, so we will work with that.
But just to be specific, Mayor, because I had to get that cleared today. In some of our conversations, it was going to be 10, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it will be 8 a.m. for adult use.
Yes.
And Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be that 8:30 to 11:30 for patient use only.
Sunday, we are open from 12 to 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, right.
And Monday to Wednesday, we're open from 8 to 7, but from 8 to 11:30 from Monday to Wednesday will be patient only hours. And on Sunday, it will be 12 to 3:30.
And on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when you're going to do customers at 8, you also do patients at 8 too. They can commingle, correct?
Absolutely. And they are prioritized. We have patient-only lines. We have patient-only online ordering and express pickup and designated cash registers for them.
Great. Thanks for clearing that up. Well, thank you again. It was good having you with us. And we look forward to continuing to work with you in this regard. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful night.
You too. We have 10 items on the consent agenda. Who's going to move it?
I'll move it. And I'll move the adoption of the regular session meeting minutes of November 15th and the closed meeting of April 5th.
I'll second it.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And this brings us to our second public comment period on any subject matter. Mr. Walsh, I see some hands up already. So please walk us through. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor and Township Committee will now begin the second public comment portion of our meeting on any subject matter. Any meeting attendee would like to address the committee at this time, please use the raise your hand function. We'll convert you over to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak. Mayor, first up, we have Joan Crystal. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think I've mentioned this to some of you individually, but we do have an accessibility issue with the way in which the township meetings are being conducted, since there is no closed captioning option. Seniors in particular are often hard of hearing. Statistics show about 30% of seniors age 65 and older are hard of hearing, go up to age 80, and it's more than half. I do know that Zoom does permit and does have an option for closed captioning. I'm requesting that the Township Committee strongly consider the possibility of having closed captioning for your meetings.
You betcha, Ms. Crystal, and thank you for bringing that up. Township Administrator Jimes, Assistant Administrator Barnett, any comment on that?
Yes, I've looked into getting the closed captioning available on Zoom. I thought that the permissions were so that residents could actually access that on this meeting, but I'm thinking that maybe it's something that can't be enabled individually and is something that we need to enable on our end just to the masses so that everyone receives them. So I'll look into that further and implement that for the next one. And then I know once we have ours available, this would be the place to see it live. And then all township committee meetings, once they are finalized on YouTube, have the closed captioning available. They just don't offer it through YouTube as a live stream since their captioning service can't keep up with it. So in terms of the live meetings, the place to access that would be Zoom. And again, I thought that that was enabled for this time, but I'm thinking it might need to be, again, for everyone versus individuals enabling it. And then in terms of YouTube, that is, folks can go to the closed caption button on the lower right-hand side once that does formally post. So we'll look into providing that more widespread as opposed to individual opt-in for the next meeting.
Terrific, thank you. And thank you again, Ms. Crystal. Mr. Waltz?
Yes, Mayor. Next, we have Erin Scherzer. We'll convert you to a panelist and allow you 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, everybody. Hold on, just getting set up here. You think I would figure out Zoom at this point and all of this. So my name is Erin Scherzer. I live at 49 Oberlin Street, and I'm here to address the cannabis licensing procedures used by the Township of Maplewood. I am happy that we have adult use in New Jersey. I am happy that our township was on the forefront of getting through all of these regulations and setting up a process. I sat through the initial proceedings earlier this month, and I was disappointed that there wasn't an opportunity for public comment, given every other forum and every other hearing that we have in Maplewood, whether it's the Board of Public Health, Alcohol ABC, Planning Board, regular township meetings, the police board, a rec board, you name it. There are opportunities for the public to speak, especially on an area that is, which is we're on the forefront of, right? And sometimes many minds coming together is important. I would urge that either, if you don't want to invite more comments because your meetings are long enough, that perhaps licensing be phased over 2 meetings, which means the presentation is made by the applicant, and then members of the public who may have comments would have reviewed the materials and would have been able to submit comments to you in writing before you actually approve or deny the proposal. I want to point out that it was an ABC hearing that changed the course of Springfield Avenue. There was a liquor store that wanted to open up across the street from Casper's. And in fact, it was members of the community who spoke up And we actually, as a town, the township found another spot for that liquor store, which is now at the top of my street, and we're able to evenly space things out. I am very concerned about the lack of traffic studies and the lack of even an ask for a traffic study. The apothecarium presented that they, on a busy day, would have over 1,400 customers coming into their stores. For context, according to the Association for Convenience and Fuel Retailing Business, that's like basically a Wawa, those stores average 1,100 customers per day. It's really important in a gross residential area such as where I live, and many people who spoke today at the township meeting, that we look very thoughtfully and carefully at the traffic implications of every business that's coming in here. I want, more than anyone, a more prosperous Springfield Avenue.
30 seconds.
I want a more prosperous Springfield Avenue, and I want prosperous economic centers throughout our town, but we can't do that at the cost of having more cars and not having a plan for where those cars are going to be to keep pedestrians and residents safe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Scherzer. Good points, duly noted. Mr. Waltz, do we have other members of the public?
I see no one, Mayor.
Okay. With that, we close the second public comment, and I move that we adjourn and meet again on May 3rd.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good night,
Fourth.
everyone. See.
Night.
We still got 15 minutes. What do you want to do?
Go have a drink.
Aye.
Bye.
The game.
Aye.